They've been a little leaky against quick passes, and a lot of teams are able to move the ball through the air. Not explosively, but small passes down the field. And, I wouldn't be surprised if that helps.
Can the Arizona Cardinals slow down a team that's firing in all three phases on a short week? Primetime, Thursday Night Football. Bo Brock hanging out with you, PHNX Cardinals. Pleased to bring on, of course, the Hawk blogger himself, Brian Nemhauser, joins us. Make sure you check out hawkblogger.com. You follow him on your socials at hawkblogger. And Brian, it seems like after week one, momentum's just been building for the Seahawks team in all three phases.
Yeah, Bo, good to see you. And it's been an odd season for the Seahawks, even though it's only been 3 weeks. I think that first week was a huge letdown for the players, the coaches, and what they've been trying to build toward. And they were shy about saying it. Julian Love, their safety, was like, we've been preparing for that game for months. And to lose it the way they lost it, I think especially made it a tough pill to swallow. They really had that game and kind of just let it get away. Not unlike, unfortunately, for the Cardinals. A similar story against the 49ers. 49ers kind of been gifted 2 divisional wins, and now both the Seahawks and the Cardinals face each other trying to make sure that they don't go to 0-2 in the division.
Yeah, the Cardinals certainly picking up the pieces. At least with the Seahawks, they've got 2 performances that I think you could say, hey, we can see the direction. We can see what the organization wants to do here from a coaching standpoint and just the execution standpoint. The Arizona Cardinals offensively, Brian, have just look broken the last 3 weeks, all 3 weeks. And they leaned into continuity. They're running it back from a coaching standpoint, play calling standpoint to personnel standpoint. And the Seahawks, as we saw last year, were a big kind of thorn in their side in both those matchups defensively. How can Cardinals fans expect that their offense has any potential to get back on track against the Seahawks defense that seemingly had their number?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And from an outside observer, I was a little confused by the lack of investment in more weapons for Kyler Murray. Obviously, Trey McBride is an all-world tight end, and you hoped for a lot of development from Marvin Harrison Jr., but it felt like there was wide receiver opportunities for them to go after. And the Seahawks, for example, got a Torrey Horton in the 5th round, and this guy looks like he's going to be a major difference maker. And you just have to think that the Cardinals would have benefited from something like that. And the other thing that was a little confusing for me was, I think the running back situation for the Cardinals. James Conner's one of the best running backs in the NFL, but he's also on the wrong side from an age standpoint. He's been used so much. I wondered aloud if he was going to be able to be as durable another year. I didn't expect or predict this kind of injury, but it feels like their offensive line, a couple of their places just aren't quite what you would expect to take the step forward against the Seahawks defense. It looks like it's not just going to be the top 5 unit it was the second half of last season. The standard I think they're trying to reach is to be the best defense in the NFL, which is what Mike McDonald did his second season in Baltimore. And I think that's what he has in mind this year as well. So the only things I would say that Seattle needs to work on defensively, they've been really, really stout against the run, but they've been a little leaky against quick passes. And a lot of teams are able to move the ball through the air, not explosively, but small passes down the field. And, I wouldn't be surprised if that helps. And the other thing I'd say is the Seahawks have had a few quarterbacks, even Aaron Rodgers, escape the pocket. And we know Kyler Murray can do that. So those would be the places I would look for potentially the Cardinals to maybe get some movement.
Yeah, Kyler a little bit more shifty, a little bit more elusive than 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Just a bit.
Maybe there's hope. And, the dink and dunk thing, the Cardinals, I mean, that's the thing that they've been doing. And, Kyler Murray spoke today and said they've been facing a lot of too high and imposing defense, trying to just keep everything in front of them. And they've just been taking that. But the problem is, you win the time of possession, you control the football, turnovers, and you're not seeing a whole lot of them, but they're not scoring. They're not cashing in on those opportunities. So it really is it's tough for Cardinals fans. They want to see them open it up a little bit. It doesn't sound like this is the opportunity. Let's flip to the offensive side of the football, kind of the group that there was going to be a ton of questions about. They make a change at the play caller. They bring in Sam Darnold. They pivot from Geno Smith to him. What have you been kind of pleased by just watching this group go? I mean, you didn't get a huge, I guess sample size this past week because they're up 38-6 at halftime.
Yeah, this has the potential to be one of the bigger storylines in the NFL if it continues, because pretty much everybody wrote off Sam Darnold as a product of Kevin O'Connell and of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And, the idea that he was going to come to Seattle with DK Metcalf going to Pittsburgh and he was going to get Cooper Kupp and JSN and a rookie in Torrey Horton, or maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who they originally brought in. And behind this offensive line, which is the third youngest offensive line in football, I think most people just thought he would not come close to what he was last year. Instead, he's actually been better than he was last year to this point. He's been able to do what he's done, which is right now the number one graded quarterback by PFF, one of the top quarterbacks by a lot of metrics, without a run game. And he's only been sacked 3 times in 3 games, which hasn't happened to a Seahawks quarterback since 1997. So, yeah, this has been an offense that has not been able to get the run game going. They're seeing a lot of stacked boxes because they play a lot of 21 and 12 personnel that brings an extra defender down, and they've been passing over the top. It is the most explosive offense in the NFL through 3 weeks. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the only player in the NFL with 3 40-yard plays in 3 games. And Cooper Kupp, by the way, he has more explosive catches than DK Metcalf does. So a lot of things that maybe people would not have predicted have come to pass so far.
Unbelievable. And then, the third phase is we've seen back-to-back weeks. You had this strange, special teams return against Pittsburgh, and then an electric one, 95 yards from Torrey Horton, the product out of Colorado State. Like, what is it about this group? Is it just you happen to catch lightning in a bottle in back-to-back weeks, or is this an emphasis for the Seahawks?
It's such a fascinating, question, because just a year ago, there was a lot of Seahawks fans who were calling for Jay Harbaugh, the special teams coach, son of Jim Harbaugh, to be let go when they let Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, go. There's a lot of people that thought they might do the same with Jay Harbaugh. I thought he had some rough games last year, but overall had a pretty good special teams unit, especially coverage-wise. Now they have, struck lightning with Torrey Horton. The actual return game in general, they've got the second best punt return game and the second best kick return game, and they're also one of the best kick coverage and punt teams in the NFL. So they don't really have a weakness on the special teams. I don't think anybody should count on special teams scoring a touchdown every week or having a punt return for a touchdown and a blocked punt. Those are things that come rarely. Yeah. But the special teams unit is a force. And when the Seahawks have had their best teams in the past, it's often come with a special teams unit that makes it really hard on the opponents as well. This looks like it could be one of those types of units.
Yeah, and we'll wrap it up on this. And I thought you had a great conversation with former Seahawks great quarterback Matt Hasselbeck about playing and the challenges of playing on Thursday night. He actually liked playing on Thursday night. Highly recommend people go check that out. Hawkblogger.com. But I found it like him just talking about the inability for coaching staffs to really make some true adjustments, from week over week. Like what you see on film is likely what you're going to see the following game. All that being said, Brian, it's like there's not a whole lot of confidence in the Cardinals fan base that without making adjustments that they're going to be able to find success. If there is a path to victory, which Cardinals fans are reluctant to acknowledge, where could you see that being for the Redbirds at home in prime time?
Yeah, I mean, I watched that whole, rewatched the whole 49ers Cardinals game. I watched the Cardinals play the Saints. I didn't watch as much of their game against the Panthers, but, they were in control for most of that game. And look, against the 49ers, the Cardinals, I know everyone's saying they haven't had explosive passes, which they haven't, but Marvin Harrison Jr. was wide open for what would have been a huge play. He dropped it. I don't think, as much as people are down on him, that he's going to be a guy that drops that play all the time.
Right.
Had a touchdown. He dropped that as well. I would understand as a Cardinals fan being disappointed in him, but, I think he's going to make those plays more often than not. And the Cardinals, they made the big interception there that should have turned to sealing the game, and they couldn't quite close it. And that defense, I think the Cardinals defense, really belies the stats that are out there because it's kind of lowly ranked. But I like the pass rush that they've got from Josh Sweat and Baron Browning. Calais Campbell's been great. You know, and obviously Budda Baker is always going to be Budda Baker. And even with all the injuries to cornerback, I feel like Denzel Burke has played a little better than maybe people give him credit for. And so I don't go into this game assuming I'm in the middle of writing my preview and doing my deep due diligence on this team, but I see that Cardinals defense as keeping them in every game as long as they're going to be playing this tough. Mac Wilson had a great game against the 49ers. And look, you get a desperate team at home in a divisional matchup. I would never count them out. So I think this is going to be tight. And in fact, the Cardinals were favored up until this morning when the line flipped to favor the Seahawks.
It's been a long time since we've seen a win over a Seattle football team. Actually, Geno Smith, he entered and left before even losing a game to the Cardinals. He was undefeated. We'll see if they can change that against Sam Darnold. But unbelievable coverage, insight from our guy, Brian Nemhauser over at Hawk Blogger. Appreciate your time and insight, man.
Good to see you both. Thanks.
Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports and like this video.